Namaskaram, Sadhguru. Why are we so afraid of death?
See, right now, why there is so much fear is the substance of your life is only in your clothes, your jewels, your education, a few people that you gathered around you. That's all the substance of your life is. All these things can be taken away from you any moment, isn't it? This is the only thing which is giving you solidity. Yes? That little bit of education, your clothes, your jewels, your bank balance, a few people around you, this is all that is giving you some sense of solidity of being a being. This is not a being, this is a patch-up job. So, with such petty blocks, when you build a building, naturally you should be very worried when it'll collapse. Now, instead of using a stone block for this column, if I use the twig, definitely I'll be always worried when it'll collapse on my head, isn't it? Isn't it so? That's your worry, that's your fear, because you're trying to build your life with twigs, not with solid material, not with reality, with illusory things. Always you will live in fear, there is no other way to live. There is simply… if you're living in a house which is supported by twigs, being afraid that it'll collapse on your head is very natural, isn't it? That's all that's happened to you. It's time you bring something more substantial into your life. If you bring something more substantial, then suddenly you find, if you sit here, everything is fine. Life or death, still it is fine. That's how it'll be. A very beautiful story. Buddha, on the last day of his life, he always had a breakfast of rice gruel in the morning. And after this breakfast was over, he always met the monks who were around him. And every day he said, if you have a question, you ask. This went on for 40 years. 40 years of his enlightened life. Every day after breakfast, he spoke. Whoever was there, 10 people, 10,000 people, whatever number, after breakfast he always sat down and spoke. So on the last day of his life, he knows this is the last day. He had his rice gruel and he sat down and he said, today is the last day. If you have anything to ask, ask. So many of the monks started crying. I said, what are you crying? At least some other day if you were crying, it's okay. Today is the last day, don't waste the time because it's ticking away. Some other day you could cry and roll and you had time for all those things. Today, if you want to ask something, you ask. He was surprised that people are crying. But Master, we have been with you for so long, you're leaving today and they're crying, nobody asking any questions. He said, stop this nonsense, ask some question. Today's the last day, any doubt? Let's clear it. After that there is only teaching, nobody to clear this and that, See, with every teaching you can get into a mess. When the Master is alive, constantly is de-entangling you. Afterwards, no de-entangling, just sadhana is all that is there. So today is the last day, if you want to ask any questions, please ask. It's just matter of fact about it. He's lived well. When death comes, he will die well. He's so certain that he'll die well. So, it's just another day. One day you took on the body, another day you walked about with the body, another day you leave the body. You make a big issue out of it, simply because you have a keyhole vision of life.
Sadhguru, why is death always portrayed as dark, sinister? Why is there heaviness? Why is so much fear attached to it? If you look at mostly the civilizations, ancient civilizations, all have some sort of heaviness, and even the symbols, if you see Yamaraj as a symbol, if you see, or you see the Grim Reaper, you see there is some heaviness and darkness, and certain kind of imagery which comes with death. Why is it so, Sadhguru?
If we look at how we have perceived and portrayed death in this part of the world, you will see that death is not seen as sinister. But the dark patch of the death is for the living, that there is a loss. Loss is always a dark thing, whether it's small things or big things. People break down when they lose something that's precious to them. It could be things, it could be people, it could be many things, you know. So, the darkness is only concerned with the living about the death. But the death itself, in this culture particularly, always been portrayed as a grand event. It's only now that Indians are imitating the West and walking with faces held down. Otherwise, even today it is there. When people die, we wear white clothes, not dark clothes. There is a certain science behind that, I'll look at that later. Above all, there are wonderful stories. The legend goes like this. Shiva is always waiting at the Mahasmashan. He's made that his abode because he's waiting. And every time somebody dies, he dances in celebration. What kind of a pervert can he be? That somebody dear to me is dead and he will dance and celebrate. Let's look at the fundamental aspect of what life is, because they're not two different things. What we call as life right now, in the experience of most human beings, is just the body that they have accumulated and a certain amount of thought and emotion that they have accumulated around themselves. It's very clear to any human being who pays a little attention to the nature of his life that he can clearly see that body is an accumulation, the psychological structure is also an accumulation. Now, beyond these things, there is life. So what you call as life is, when you were children, I'm sure you definitely did blow some soap bubbles. When you blew a soap bubble, the bubble was real. But what was inside the bubble is just the atmosphere all over. When the bubble burst, one drop of the soap water fell on the floor, rest of the whole content of the bubble, where it went, you can never see because it's just… never was, because it's just a part of everything. This is the nature of life. The whole cosmos is a living mass of life. You built a bubble. When the bubble burst, and for those… if somebody has a perspective of the other aspect or the other side, let's look at life and death like this. You're in this side of the wall, somebody else is on the other side of the wall. When the bubble burst and this air which was… or this life which was trapped in this bubble became released, and what's happening on the other side is way bigger than what can happen within the trap of physicality. So he is laughing, singing and dancing because one life got released from the mortal coil as it has always been